Welcome, everyone, to a podcast update with Asiamet CEO Darryn McClelland. It is Tuesday, the 5th of December, and Darryn's joining me from his home in Jakarta. Darryn, so you've had quite a busy week at the Minds of Money conference in London last week, or the Resourcing Tomorrow conference, as it's now rebranding itself. Any feedback for investors on how the conference went?
Yeah, the conference has rebranded somewhat with a format more focused on quality meetings with strategics and institutions, but still also offering the opportunity for private investors to meet companies. It's a busy time at the moment for Asiamet, especially taking time out for a 3-day conference, but it was an excellent opportunity to put faces to names for groups with whom we have already been talking to, and also to add new groups to the roster for a number of possibilities, be it in project financing, development finance, copper cathode offtake, or even some strategic investment opportunities. Before the conference, I met with leadership of one of the offtake groups who we've been actively working with to look to deliver on a prepayment offtake for copper for BKM, noting that this is a separate group to the party which has given us the indicative offer for copper cathode offtake. A key theme is that all groups are certainly hungry for copper units. Probably going to get hungrier given the copper price has been coming off its recent lows, and certainly some of the more recent events in the copper market. But understanding, like all these scenarios, we have to go through due diligence processes. At the conference, we also found that Asiamet, being one of the few companies with an advanced project in the critical minerals space, and some real quality groups pre-booked meetings with us, and we had a solid schedule, plus a number of meetings outside of the conference, as well as having to take some business as usual ones to fit in from Asia before the UK day began. So in all, very busy time, Sasha.
So Darryn, were there any common themes from the show?
In terms of things, well, certainly a lot of things for us to follow up on, which we've been doing since the show ended. But it was noticeable that the equity markets are quiet, and we didn't get as many as UK and US groups wanting to pitch raising us equity money. I guess because there is obviously less to go around at this point in time, and a lot of companies are requiring cash, which is just reflective of the state of the junior market these days. One overriding theme was whether equity markets, especially for junior mining stocks, have reached a bottom. From a commodities perspective, overall, certainly there seems to be an improvement. Gold in recent times just settling above $2,000 an ounce after briefly hitting an all-time high yesterday. But noticeable that gold equities haven't quite followed to the same extent yet, but that would be expected to come. Same could possibly be said that we've reached a bottom in sort of the copper equities and could see renewed interest in the junior copper space. Understanding there's always a lag though, and we all keenly anticipate what interest rates will do next year, as well as the overall state of the copper market, which does have some analysts forecasting potentially going into deficit again. I'm pretty certain that market lows are setting in, and in my opinion, that also applies to Asiamet as well. What we did find from the show is, and I said they were busy days, mostly fully booked up with quality groups. Private equity and hedge funds are wanting to find out about the project or receive an update. Their view is that we are cheap and that Asiamet could really make some yards as we progress through our financing. I guess that might seem like stating the obvious, but at least they're aware of key catalysts in the pipeline and are doing their own DD for when the market turns and looking for opportunities. We're going to stay in touch with these interested parties, and hopefully we'll have an opportunity to expand and institutionalise our register further as we progress. A couple of the other large development finance groups were interested in our projects, understanding that they have strict criteria and mandates, and we've been exchanging emails on how we can progress those. These are slightly more unorthodox ways of financing, but we are certainly going to work on exploring our eligibility to engage with them. Importantly, for the first time, we prepared a presentation that highlights the highly positive impacts the BKM copper project will deliver to local stakeholders. This is really critical messaging for the project as we look to demonstrate the benefits of BKM beyond the direct financial outcomes of the company. So it was a critical message to get across to particularly the development finance corporations about how we can see not only financial impacts, but also, of course, the social development impacts that can be delivered from executing a project like BKM in the location where it is. Moving on to some of the offtake providers, as indicated earlier, we met the leadership team of one large Western group to whom we've been advancing due diligence, and certainly some new groups came to us at the conference. Some really good discussions there, particularly interesting, and access to cash and some of the newer groups keen to make a mark in this space. So, looking forward to continuing engagement with them early in the new year as we take things forward. So, in summary, a lot of valuable meetings, got a lot of homework to do, which we've already started, and I've been communicating with a range of people since the conference has finished. One of our focuses was to engage with groups who could add the most value in terms of scale, desire to get involved in the project. Of course, these all fit alongside some of the groups that we've already been in discussions with and been working with on the project financing stack, Sasha.
So, Darryn, looking back to the past couple of announcements, perhaps a good opportunity to provide some detail around those, the recent appointments of the DOID directors, the fundraise with DOID, and perhaps progress on offtake and debt, if you could.
Yeah, sure. We've touched on a few of these things before, but I think firstly, probably best to begin with the DOID fundraise, which also I added 4 million shares to my own holding as part of that raise. I guess I'd just really like to reiterate how important it is in Indonesia to have the support of a well-respected in-country partner such as DOID. DOID are supportive of the Asiamet business and strategy, and making a further investment of this scale is an affirmation that investors should not take lightly. It's a recognition of the work we've done to date in relation to feasibility study and also the advancement we've made on the project financing process. We, Asiamet, have a lot of respect for DOID as operators and as our largest shareholder. They're committed to Asiamet and are actively involved in the business. So with the 2 new directors recently appointed, both Matt and Peter are actively engaged in different parts of the business. And we had our first Asiamet board meeting last week whilst I was in London, and again, actively engaged in the board process. So, really looking forward to their contribution going forward, along with our other board members in Tony, Dominic, Bruce, and Eva. I feel there's a lot of reasons to be positive moving forward, notwithstanding how difficult it is for juniors to raise money at this point in time in the market. So, it's important to understand that DOID are also not traders. They're long-term investors following their money and supporting Asiamet, in a number of different ways. So, it's important to look at this as a positive moving forward.
Okay, Darryn, so perhaps an opportunity for you to talk about the use of the proceeds and the rationale behind the amount raised.
Yeah, absolutely, Sasha. The quantum of 4 million was agreed in reference to a set budget that we had put forward. Excluding working capital, the budget focuses very much on enabler items that are required for the project financing package, which we've touched upon already, along with various requirements for permitting and approvals. We also had an existing cash reserve to go with this funding. With respect to the debt side of the project finance process, we've been working with the proposed lead bank, as we have been communicating, moving through their due diligence processes to get to the point where we receive the first stage of credit committee approval, which will also include the size and terms of a debt package. It's expected that they will syndicate out to other lenders in supporting that debt package, given the size that it's likely to be. Part of this, though, and it will have to be done anyway, is that to have the debt ready to draw down upon, we have to have a high level of certainty relating to, and particularly the construction execution contracts, and have more accurate costings provided. It can be noted that there are some have been some high profile projects run into trouble in and around capital costs. So what we're doing is very important, and we need to be seen to be proactive in this area. But of course, in order to get to that stage of advanced contractor engagement, we must complete the necessary level of detailed engineering that informs those contracts. So this is all part of the work that we need to advance as part of the bank financing process. We have been engaging with engineering groups and to ensure that the scope of work is well understood and to provide us with proposals to complete detailed engineering for BKM. This is part of the communication that we have sort of released in recent news releases. Subject to internal approvals, the intention is to put in place binding MOUs and a scope of work for early engineering to progress and allow this work to start. I am looking forward to working with both these engineering groups we've engaged thus far. I believe they'll add a lot of value to the project. Early engagement on engineering groups who will be on the project through to the construction phase and through to commissioning, was raised as a really important point by the ITE, saying that the earlier that we engaged those groups and groups that will be on the project for the long term, the better off the execution of the project will be. So that's what we're aiming to address.
Okay, Darryn. So you've talked about the lenders a little bit. How's the process going specifically with the lead bank?
Yeah, so I guess going into a bit more detail, Sasha, and recapping slightly. We issued the SRK ITE report to the bank towards the end of October, which provided the feedback on technical and economic aspects of the FS update. During the period when SRK were completing their review, we, with Grant Samuel as our corporate advisor and representatives of the bank, engaged on the financial modelling requirements for the project assessment. Then during November, and as recently as late as last week, we have engaged with the bank on several occasions to discuss the ITE report and specifically the financial modelling requirements for the project debt financing process. So we have completed our first full review of that very recently, as of last week, and we'll have a follow-up review post some interactions, some additional information requested from both the lead bank and also from ourselves and Grant Samuel. With the aim of reviewing that next week and having a further update meeting by mid-December. I'll admit, this is taking considerable time, but we're working through this process together. We respond to information, each party as quickly as possible, and we're all working to ensure that we don't have any unnecessary delays. So it's a detailed process, and it's one that we're working through as methodically and expeditiously as we can. I'd also like to share that another aspect to this, which we haven't communicated as much, but have started to share, is that with the assistance of our new directors, we are intending to initiate some discussion with leading Indonesian banks who will be supportive and capable of financing what we hope to be Indonesia's newest copper cathode project. So really looking forward to being able to have those discussions and get in front of the Indonesian banks and explain BKM and what it is we're hoping to do there.
Thanks, Darryn. So what else is there to discuss? Offtakes you've touched upon. Is there anything else you can say about the indicative term sheet that you've announced?
I guess just quickly here, Sasha. I mean, the term sheet's from one of the world's largest traders. It was provided as an indicative conditional term sheet on the understanding that certainly further negotiations will take place once the debt finance piece is in place and both terms and conditions across that debt financing package are understood. We'll continue engaging with them at the appropriate time, but as we've explained in the discussion earlier, we certainly have several other groups who are really interested in BKM's cathode output, and we are continuing to progress due diligence with those parties. And so that will come to a natural conclusion and start to look to be formalised more once we also are clear of some of the debt financing requirements, project financing requirements.
Okay, Darryn, do you want to talk a bit about any BKM project-specific activities?
A couple of things I'd like to touch on, Sasha. As we've alluded to earlier in the discussion, one of our main focus points over the last few months has been engagement with engineering groups, delivering that next phase of detailed engineering for BKM. The approach to execution of the project, including engineering partners, was one of the optimisation actions from the FS update. And looking at how that has formed and the groups that we're going to be working with, I certainly see that the optimisation objective, I think, is going to be achieved once we see how the engineering scopes of work and proposals come out. But also look at there's some really good opportunities to further reduce some of our CapEx items as a result of engaging these particular engineers and using them for the broader scopes of work that we've identified. So again, that was another area of optimisation that we wanted to address coming out of the feasibility study. So largely hopefully killing two birds with one stone in that area. We're also closing out two of the remaining project optimisation targets, namely the pit design and the scheduling, pit design and scheduling, as well as alternative heap leach facility location. I hope to be able to report on the outcome of these and what they mean for the project, certainly in the very near future, a few of the final technical items. Another key area is our forestry permitting, and we also continue to work on closing out the final item which is required for our forestry conversion permit, and that is an MOU relating to the shared road use of the forestry corridor to the site with the forest contractor. Now, we're working together with the forestry contractor and with the Ministry of Forestry to try as expeditiously as possible, work through the requirements of this MOU and see if we can get that in place as quickly as we can.
Okay, thanks, Darryn. So whilst I'm sure you could go to a lot more detail here, I'm also sure that many of those listening would like to hear about further updates and further news and what the plan for Newsflow is over the next few months.
Yeah, certainly, Sasha. Coming into the year end, we certainly intend to deliver a formal update on a range of the activities, a number of which we've spoken about today, and some that we haven't, but certainly giving a detailed update on all of the activities and understanding what our likely path is forward going into 2024. Certainly in the first quarter of next year, there's a range of things which we will have an opportunity to report on, namely ongoing the closing out of certainly the credit committee approval for the debt financing. That will in turn allow us to ongoing discussions with the offtake providers. And there'll be a lot of things to report and share, with respect to the engineering work being done, and then our subsequent engagement with contractors, which is going to flow on from the engineering, and certainly our permitting. So definitely aiming to be able to report as soon as possible on the forestry conversion permit, and then also us starting some work on some additional regulatory requirements, such as our updated environmental impact assessment and some other work required as part of the permitting process. So it's a lot of news and a lot of work to carry on for next year, Sasha. So really looking forward to being able to share that with our shareholders. Finally, I guess I'd like to really thank our shareholders for their patience and guidance given on a number of occasions, and their support this year, and certainly wish everyone a safe and happy festive season, and looking forward to a strong year for Asiamet in 2024.
Thank you very much for the update, Darryn, and look forward to hearing again from you soon.